All right, so let's go to our reporting, our SSRS, the reporting service with a Visual Studio. Let's go and open our Visual Studio. We're going to create a report for the Adventure Work DW sample database. I'm going to run my Visual Studio as an administrator. Thank you. All right, open this without code and new. So this is very easy to do. I think is the easy of all of it, all of the project. However, why always is has to be, let's go call this sales reports, and I'm going to put a one. Okay. Uh, there is changes added to the platform, and that's where we need to kind of, I troubleshoot all of this for you, so that'll be easy. However, finding the errors for you to fix it is not fun and is not easy. Unfortunately, it's not too many places to find the error. Even ChatGPT had a hard time finding it. Okay, so we have it here, the user interface. We're going to create a report. So it's many different ways you can do a share report, single report, add a report, use the wizard. We're going to do one type and then do different ones. We're going to add a new item, and that allows me to kind of identify um, what kind of report I wanted to do. So I'm going to start with a simple report. Let me put an underscore. Simple report. There you go. All right. So now if you go to the right to the Solution Explorer, you see that I have a report. So here is a few things we're going to do. We need to do in order to get this working. All right, so let's go. Doing the report after that is very easy. Configuring the server is always the hardest time, hardest process, and especially when you don't have any kind of more out there that people, oh yeah, this is what is wrong, can find the error, this is what you need to do. So we're going to add the data source, very simple. I'm going to call this ADW. And make sure that you have the nothing else but the SQL server because we're connecting to the database. We're going to connect to the string, connection string. I had my server copy here, so I don't have to wait for to load. There you go. And then here I'm going to connect to my AdventureWorks DW 2019. I'm running 2019. If you're running 2022 and you don't have any bugs, that's good too. All right. So here is the first thing that you need to do. So I actually copy. You need to add. So this is kind of, let me see. You need to add to your connection string the integrated security to true and trust certificate true. So before, you could have run it just as it is. So semicolon and adding that integrate security true and trust server certificate true. Without that, it will not run. It will say you connected to the server, but you don't have a certificate and you don't have a trust certificate. So you need to add that. Okay, before we move and close this window, we can open later on. Make sure that you check your credentials at the asset here. Use Windows Authentication, Integrated Security. Okay? Okay. Somehow this gets disconnected to that Windows login. So you are going to show you how you can go into it. So I'm going to add this data set. You see that we'll get an error. So here we're going to use the Babel and query. And it says I cannot connect. Okay. So you cannot connect. The reason that you cannot connect is if you go here to your report property, you see that this is set for localhost. You need to set this to your server. Right. So I think I have it here. Let's see what is. Oh, here it is. My reporting services is. Did I copy desktop report services? So let's make sure that I am putting this correctly. Let me double check that if it matches. Yes, it does. So I are going to apply and okay. All right. So I added here to my default, but there is something else that I need to do because this is still not going to work. So I'm going to go, this is an extra step I put here uh, in the bottom here, change the config file. So we gotta add that server to the config file. So what you're going to see here, the path. So this is actually in this path here. I'm going to go to my C drive. I'm going to go to my program files. I'm going to go to Microsoft Reporting Services, SSRS Report Server. And in the bottom here, I have a file called rs reporting server config. I'm going to open with Notepad. And in here, you're going to search for this URL root. So I'm going to go find, and then you see that I already added mine. So mine was empty. So yours will be empty, will be nothing. So add your server right here. So HTTP, the desktop name of your server here, and report server. Okay, so let me close it. So you can see that mine has edit, so it's going to work because I have that edit. I'm going to double check once again my properties, and you see my credentials. They got they're not set up, so I'm going to put that. My user use Windows authentication integrated security. Okay, and now I can add a data set. I'm going to use the connection that I did it before, and I'm going to open my query design. So the query design is working. So to add tables, so this is the hardest part, add table. I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. I'm going to add the internet, and I'm going to add the customer because I want to know the sales and I want to know the segment of my. So I'm going to add, I believe is total product. Is total product cost? 1 second, let me see. What did I ask you guys to do? You can select later on whatever you want, but I think in the handout I added, let's see, total product cost and sales amount. All right. For the customer, we're going to add gender. So we want to know who is buying, and I will want to know the married, single, and so forth. So here's my query, very simple. You can add aggregated later on. You can add other tables, whatever you want. This is very simple. Okay. And here I make sure that here's my query. Everything okay. And there you go. So I connected my database and tables, but now I had to create a report. I had to add a table here. I'm going to go to my toolbox and make sure that I add a table. And I dragged here to this window. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to select for my report, let's see, is gender, then marital status, and sales amount. And I need one more column here, so I'm going to right click, insert column right, and then I'm going to select total product cost. Now, before I run this, well, let me run it. Here is my report. I'm going to go to the design. I'm going to select gender, marital status, sales amount, total amount, and I'm going to go to here there is little background color here, and I'm going to select something like this. And I want to do the preview. This is not really important. It's just to make the table more visible when you print it. And that's it. So that's the simple report. So the most important for the simple report, in order to connect, there's a few things. First, make sure, let me go because you cannot access that. Make sure that your data source here, if you go to the properties, you have the Windows Authentication Integrated Security selected. Okay. Another thing, you have to go to the sales report. Make sure you select properties. In the bottom, you have, just like we have done with the integration and analysis, you have to have your server added to the target server URL. However, here, since you need to add your config file, because they improve softwares and add things. So you want to make sure that you go to your program files, your Microsoft SQL Service Reporting Services, SSRS Reporting Services, and you make sure that you can add the RS Reporting Service config file. Open with, oh here, edit with Notepad. You search for that URL root, and here inside of that brackets, you add your server. All right? Make sure that you leave a report service as a default name. Okay? Perfect. Okay. All right. All right. So I have a document that I just created to troubleshoot um, these problems here, but you see that doing the report will take no time. All right.